Beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you.
Friedrich Nietzsche's warning from Beyond Good and Evil cautions the reader about the corruptive power of violence and finds an uncanny echo in Suda 51's Killer is Dead. Monsters exist all around us, be they people, ideologies, or societal evils, things that may do harm to our very being. There are monsters who will do the ultimate harm because they believe that the ends will justify the means. Engaging with these evils can lead to internalizing their methods or justifying unethical actions, eroding your moral integrity and irreparably changing us in the process. The abyss beckons, but can you resist the pull of a black hole? Killer is Dead is a 2013 hack-and-slash game developed by Suda 51 and Grasshopper Manufacture. Two other notable hack-and-slash games released earlier that year to varying degrees of success, not to mention the plethora of beat-em-up games that released that year. Releasing at the tail end of the 7th generation on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, the game was generally disliked compared to other Suda 51 games. Even today, trying to play this game on PC is likely going to result in the game crashing, so new players would never get to experience Gigolo mode. What's Gigolo mode? Well, I'm sure I could show a little. Mondo Zappa is an executioner for the Bryan execution firm, who also supposedly was a part of the team that took down Osama bin Laden? And by taking him down, bin Laden's malice spread to the team and that's how he lost his arm? Hold on, what? Is there a source for that? Moving on. Mondo's job is to execute targets who have been turned into monsters from an overabundance of dark matter. Dark matter are these particles that come from the moon and melt into people's bodies, potentially turning them into malicious beings called wires. Most people are fine, so long as you have a righteous heart, a sense of ethics, deterrence, and morality. The body will process and expel dark matter like you gotta take a righteous dump. But those with weak hearts or evil intentions will have the dark matter amplified and can turn them insane. Every level has Mondo contracted to take down one target, and you have two tools at your disposal to help you achieve this. First, his katana, Gecko, which absorbs the blood of his enemies as he slices them. With the accumulated blood, you can use your second weapon, Muscleback, which is your robotic arm that can turn into a gun, or a drill, or a freeze gun, or a cannon, or that could just be a hand that could hold all the ladies after a gigolo mission. As Mondo slices through these enemies, he puts himself at extreme risk. In the Secret Fells of Episode 8, the secret of Mondo's arm states that by absorbing the blood of his enemies, he's able to obtain extraordinary power. But it comes at the risk of corrupting himself. The consciousness of the enemy's blood is also absorbed, and as a result, becomes internalized. And if the enemy has an abundance of dark matter in them, it gets absorbed with the blood, and Mondo has a chance of losing himself. We see this in multiple ways, from his arm pulsing with dark energy, to a full transformation where he looks like one of the wires he cuts down. This transformation is also teased during Adrenaline mode, where he can use one blood level to quickly execute an enemy. During the game, a combo meter starts to fill the more strikes we land without getting hit. The more levels we get, the faster our sword gets until we start doing flips while slicing the enemies. What a show off. And a new function unlocks. Final Judgment. When the enemy's HP reaches 0, we can choose how we pass judgment on the enemy, and are rewarded with resources corresponding to the method that we chose. But this feature only unlocks by attacking the enemies, drawing in their blood, and internalizing their brutality. Mondo constantly stares into the abyss when he faces enemies consumed by darkness, and is rewarded with resources to enhance his abilities and cut away the restraints that were placed on him. But this is not a one-sided exchange. The abyss also stares back. With each takedown, it means unlocking more brutal ways to take out your targets, becoming more like the monsters that we are contracted to eliminate. Targets are all over the place, from an Alice in Wonderland reference, to a vampire, to an alien, to even Thomas the Tank Engine's Russian cousin. But the main antagonist is all we need to focus on today, so let's just get these guys out of here. This guy, who looks like he's dressed for the Met Gala, is David. In Chapter 4, We are tasked with eliminating him because he took over the moon from Moon River. The mission ends in a failure, but we vow to try again once we become stronger. Over the course of the game, two key facts are revealed about David. First, David was an executioner who also worked for the Bryan execution firm, just like you. In fact, we played as David in the first mission of the game in this walking simulator. Executioners run the risk of succumbing to darkness the more they eliminate targets, and a successor will be chosen who will then eliminate their predecessor. The second key fact is that David is Mondo's brother. David is the one who sliced off Mondo's arm. By taking him down, Bin Laden's malice spread to the team and that's how he lost his arm. But we clearly see in the game that it was David who did it. This game doesn't explain a lot. I mean, this is the game where you can walk on the moon with just a helmet and be fine, and then take off your helmet and fight outside without an issue. David knew that one day, there would be an executioner who would eliminate him, so he brainwashed the last person he saved, Mika, to act as his spy before going to conquer the moon and unleash dark matter onto the Earth. Earth kind of has a double meaning here. Celestial bodies make numerous appearances in the game and act as metaphors for some of the characters. Mika is the sun, burning passionately, full of energy, and is the source of creativity and freedom. Moon River, the person who asks you to eliminate David, represents... If you guessed the moon, you were right. The moon is the counterpart of the sun, representing feeling, instinct, motherhood, and the consciousness of small children. And Mondo is the earth, holding light and darkness in perfect harmony. David's desire to fill the earth with dark matter can also be seen as David's desire to fill Mondo with darkness. And there's good reason to believe this too. At the end of the game, David reveals to Mondo that he and Mondo share the same blood. And after successfully executing David, we see that the earth in the background is being bombarded with streams of darkness, while we also witness Mondo being consumed by the darkness himself. Mondo doesn't just share the same blood with David because they are brothers, but because David's blood was absorbed into Mondo during their fight, corrupting Mondo with the darkness that was in David. The ending also shows who is presumably Mondo with his missing arm regrown, and the moon has turned red. A red moon occurs because of the influence of Mars. David. In the game, Mars represents destruction. With the moon turning red, it means Moon River will not be able to return to the moon. The heralding of destruction has begun. David has influenced Mondo and transformed him. Now, both Mars and Earth have the power to destroy. Nietzsche warns that one must be self-aware and vigilant when confronting evil. Otherwise, it will become indistinguishable from that which they oppose. And Mondo and David look very similar, fighting with katanas and suits with neatly kept hair. When David transforms into a monster, Mondo follows suit, mimicking his brother and using the same dark power. Mondo will do whatever it takes to take down his brother, but ends up losing himself in the process. Funnily, we were warned about this very early on, during the second mission of the game.
Good luck, kid. One day, you may have to walk this path too. And on this job, you always come face to face with darkness. That's why you gotta find a beacon of light that'll never succumb to it.
Thank you. Those are words I won't forget.
Ironic that most people will probably have forgotten this exact line by the time that they reached the ending. Mika, as the sun, could have been that beacon of light, as well as any of the other women that Mondo seduces in the Gigolo missions. Instead, his obsession with battle and eliminating David made Mondo turn away from the light that anchored him. Mondo's mother makes reference to tainted blood, and that Mondo should do whatever it takes to not taint his blood. If he is not careful, he too can succumb to darkness and become like David. So, what can be done to not succumb to the abyss? Well, there is one thing: power.
I am the storm that is approaching.
No, not that power. Nietzsche proposes the idea of will to power. While someone like Charles Darwin would suggest that humanity is driven by a will to survive, Nietzsche would argue that organisms are not driven merely to continue existing, but they seek growth, the ability to overcome and dominate obstacles, and their self. Yeah, you want to get dominated, don't you? This means going beyond receiving moral codes from others and inventing values that enhance life, strength, and creativity. Essentially, Nietzsche is saying that we should think for ourselves. Instead of internalizing others' values and principles, we compete in a battleground of wills where morality itself is tested.
If you go that route, we'll get tons of complaints from the gamers. Isn't this supposed to be an action game?
So while Mondo may have won the battle against David, David won the war by imposing his will on Mondo. Killer is Dead is a weird and pretty niche game. And with the game being in a state of constantly crashing unless you get into the files and fix it yourself, it's not really something most people are going to want to invest their time into. But this hack and slash game also acts as a meditation of Nietzsche's teachings. When fighting monsters, guard your soul. Because the deeper you delve into the darkness, the more it will change you.